Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us in today's training session. I'll quickly share my screen. All right, so today we'll be going through the first session that is getting started with QuestionPro, and we'll be covering these elements in this training. Survey design and creation. How do we start creating surveys from scratch on QuestionPro? We'll go through standard and advanced question types, which are the supported question types on QuestionPro, and how do you kind of design them? Survey sharing and collaboration. How do you collaborate between, within any user in the university or externally as well? Survey themes and design. We'll see how do you change the look and feel and, themes and design elements of the survey. We'll then dive into something a bit more complex, which is logic and survey flows, where we'll show you how do you make a survey smart by using various logic and, options to kind of make them smarter. So as you branch them to certain questions, then we'll dive into randomization and blocks, where we'll see how do you randomize responses or questions in a survey or in blocks as well. This session will be for 1 hour, which will be also, you can post your questions to us on edu@questionpro.com if you have any questions about this training session. All right, so let's dive into the product itself. So once you log into your QuestionPro account, this is exactly what you see. So you'll be able to see like a list of folders over here, which will have all your surveys. And the surveys will be organized over here. So for example, this one over here has all my surveys about the training that we are conducting today. And over here, we have an option to create a new survey from scratch. Now let's start off by creating a new survey from scratch here. So I'm going to give it a name over here called as training survey. We can create one from scratch by clicking on create survey here, or even use a range of templates that we already have. So QuestionPro has a series of educational survey templates, or any specific topics that you would be looking for. So you can look into templates over here. So for example, if you want to look into educational templates, or if you want to look into templates about, let's say, employee feedback or customer satisfaction, or probably, shopping experience, for example. So you've got like a series of templates that you can pick and choose from here. Now let's start off by creating a new survey from scratch itself, and then we'll start adding the questions ourselves. I click on create a survey, and then the survey gets created, and we're then navigated to the workspace. The workspace is a place where we can go ahead and add the questions and build onto the survey itself over here. Let's start off by adding a logo. So you can definitely go and add any particular logo of your university, or any specific logo that you want to use on your survey. I'm going to pick and choose a particular logo over here. Let's say I'm going to use the QuestionPro one, and I'm going to click on save. So this is how you add a logo, and then you can resize this on the way you wanted to position the survey. You have the survey topic over here, listed over here. You can also edit that as well. Now, generally, when you're starting to design a research survey, you would probably want to start off by adding an introduction text. An introduction about what your survey is about, what's the survey project about, like a description around that. And you can probably type in like how much time it's going to approximately take for a respondent to complete it. And then you can also talk about like, if there's any terms and conditions that a survey or respondent should probably know before he takes the survey over here. So this is a custom field that you can edit. So for example, let's say I'm going to type in the project name over here. So this is like an editable text field. And let's say we're going to talk about online shopping experience. And over here, let's say the time taken to complete the survey would be, let's say, 2 minutes. So let's just edit this field. And let's say I want people to read this and accept probably a checkbox before they proceed to the survey. You can agree, or you can choose the I agree checkbox over here in settings. So I go to settings and I check this option, and it will give me this particular option. So generally, when you're doing like a research survey and you want to probably put in all your IRB guidelines, you can definitely go and edit them in the introduction over here first. Now, once you're done with adding the introduction, you can start building the questions onto the survey. So you have an option over here where it says add question, and you're navigated to a pane over here which opens up with all a series of basic question types. And we also have some advanced question types over here as well. Let's start off by using some of our basic question types. Let's say if you want to use a multiple choice question, you can simply click on one of these options. Let's say we want to start off by adding some demographic questions. So let's say, what's your gender, for example? And in the answer options, you want to probably use, you can edit them over here in bulk. And instead of typing them here manually, you can also populate them from a scale library. So I'm just going to go to the scale library here and select gender, and I get the answer options over here. I can click on save, and you can see that the question's been edited now. Now, let's say if you want to use probably something like a question type which has a drop-down, for example. So I'm going to choose a drop-down question type, and let's say, which state do you belong to? And over here, let's say if we want to populate all the US states. So I go to edit options in bulk. Obviously, you don't want to end up typing all the 50 states over here one by one. You can just probably go to the scale library, select geographic scales, and select the US states over here. And I click on save, and then I get to see all the states over here in a dropdown. Now, let's say if you want to use some of the other question types. Let's say you want to use a smiley scale like this. And let's customize how satisfied with, let's say, Amazon. And you've got like an option to pick and choose from in terms of smileys. You can go to customize scale and pick and choose from the one that you like the best. You can also design your own custom smileys over here and then upload those images in this custom smiley scale rating. So let's go over here and then choose this one, and I click on save. If I go to settings over here, I have certain options that I can use or probably edit. So let's say if I want to design it to a 2-point scale or a 3-point scale, I can use something like this as well. Now let's move on to some of the other question types. We've also got something like a thumbs up and down, push to social, or a text slider. Let's say we want to use a slider question. And let's say, what's your overall experience, for example? And then we can type in, let's say, customer support. And let's say product, delivery, and let's say overall, for example. And then you want to customize the scale over here. So you can go to edit columns in bulk, and you can edit the columns over here. So you have an option to pick and choose a scale over here. I've already got a rating scale. Let's say I want to use this scale over here, and I can click on save. And I've got a rating scale over here for each and every option. If I go to settings here, I have an option to use like a lighter scale over here as well. I can use also an option to use alternate colors over here. We can also choose this to become a bipolar matrix if you put in something like this, where you have like an option that you want to enter text over here as well. You can put that in, but let's just stick to a Likert scale in this question. A couple of other question types that we have are like numeric sliders. Now we've got ordering. So you've got like various options of ordering here. Like you've got rank orders, constant sum, and drag and drop as well. So let's say if you want to use something like a drag and drop question, and let's say you want to rank in your hobbies, I'm going to put in something over here. Let's say swimming and let's say golf. And you want to probably rank in your top 3 hobbies over here. You can enable validation, which will kind of, have you select exactly 3 out of 5 responses over here. So you can set up like an option over here that qualifies for your question. Now, this is like probably designing all the questions in one particular block. Let's say if you want to use another section or probably put questions on another section, you can just click on add a block over here and then start adding questions in the next block. If I click on add block, I get an option to use presentation text, which would be, let's say, a heading or a subheading over here. I can, let's say you want to use something as a heading over here, and I can just put in the text over here. All right, so that's how you customize the heading. And then let's go to adding, let's say, questions. Let's say you want to use an open-ended question. You can use the comment box and then start typing in your question here. And you get to use like an open-ended comment box. If you go to settings, you can change the display options over here. If you want to position it below or next to the question, you can also limit characters and also have, the rows of the cells positioned over here. So that's how you add an open-ended question on your survey. Moving to the next option of questions, we've got like single row text, email address, contact information, which would probably help you collect the information of the respondents, and then you get to customize the fields over here as well. Let's say I want to use like a custom field over here, which says university name, for example. So I can design my own custom fields along with the contact information question type. And then if you preview this over here, this will preview that particular question. And we can see fields that we need to enter. All right, so let's move on to the next series of question types. Let's say if you want to add images onto your survey, you can pick and choose a question from the image chooser. And let's say, is your preferred online shopping? And let's say you want to put in Amazon here. And let's say eBay. And you can just like click on an option over here and just search for Amazon, or you can just upload the logo yourself. I have already got it over here, so I'm just going to click on save. And let's search for eBay here. And that's how you can add images to your questions as well. A couple of other question types that you can use are like matrix questions. So for example, let's say if you want to design a matrix question. So I designed the question here, and then let's say website, product delivery, let's say billing, for example. And return policy. I can just put in the answer options that I want here. And in the columns, I want to go ahead and edit them over here. So I can just pick and choose a scale library. And let's say I use the scale, and you've got like a scale library here as well. If you want to make this question mandatory for the respondent, you can enable validation, where you can either force a response or you can request a response. A couple of other question types that we have are like date and time, CAPTCHA, calendar, and maps. So let's say if you want to use like a map question type, you can use that as well. You click on maps, and then you get access to various maps that you can pick and choose from. If you go to settings, you can change the map options over here, and we've got like a series of different maps over here. All right, so let's move on to some of our advanced question types. Let's say if you click on advanced over here, you can get to choose like some of our advanced question types over here. So some of them are customer satisfaction questions like Net Promoter Score, a Van Westendorp, which is a question for price sensitivity, and you've got like budget scales as well. Let's say if you want to use the Net Promoter question type, which is generally used for measuring customer satisfaction index, you can customize the question over here. And let's say you want to use the company name here. And if you want to change the scale of this Net Promoter Score, you can pick and choose that from here as well. But generally, it's going to be a scale from 0 to 10. We also have some of our advanced question types over here, which might include, like, let's say if you're going to use like a video on QuestionPro, you can use like the QPulse question and add a video from YouTube or any other source. So let's say I want to use a video from YouTube. I can simply go to youtube.com. And let's say I want to use this video. And I can just copy this code over here for this YouTube video. I'll close this. I go back to the survey. I go to settings. And here I can just paste in the video code. And that's how you add the video onto the survey. And then you've got like a rating scale below it as well, where you can change the scales over here. Similarly, you can also add an audio. So you can just like upload an audio file onto the survey and then embed it over here as well. If you want to use any other video from any other source, just select the use the video library and upload your video from here. All right, so let's move on to some of our advanced question types. We've got questions like ordering as well, and heat maps and hotspots. So you can use like image hotspots, heat maps, or card sorting. Let's say if you want to use like a card sorting question type. So this is, an open-ended card sort. A closed-ended card sort where you've got like a series of questions where you want to probably organize them into categories. So you can then, if I click on preview here, and this is how you can organize them. So this is how this question type would be positioned. We also have some advanced question types like side-by-side matrix or complex grid question types, which you can pick and choose. These are for like designing advanced questions or surveys itself, which will be helpful for designing advanced questions. You can also pick and choose some question types like upload file, which might be used to upload a particular file onto the survey. We have the signature question type where you can have people click on and sign digitally. If you want to use something like a reference data or a lookup table, we can use that as well. Let's say if you're going to use a numeric validator, you can pick something up from here. So that's how you add questions onto your survey. We also have an option over here, which is called as library, which will help you pick and choose any questions from your saved library. So you can design or probably save questions on your library over here. So for example, I want to save this. I can go to these three dots and click on copy to library and use them often onto my surveys. And how do I do that? I simply click on add question. Then I go to library and then pick and choose the questions that are saved over here. Or I can directly access any question from any of my surveys that I have in my account. So I can pick and choose a particular survey and then pick and choose that data into the survey itself. So that's about designing the various questions onto the survey. Now let's move on to the next topic which would be the design elements. How do you change the look and feel and the theme of the survey? If I click on design over here, we get to see the different themes that we can pick and choose. In standard themes, we've got like certain color palettes that we can pick and choose from. So these are some default colors that you can change and choose. If you want to choose like a custom color palette, then you can just click on this option and choose the color code appropriate to your selection. If you want to customize the theme further, you have an option to pick and choose a custom theme, which will then enable you to customize all these options. You can also use an option to add a survey image in the background. If I go to display settings, I have certain options that I can position or probably edit. Certain things like auto advance, which will automatically move on to the next question once the selection is completed for a particular single select question type. We can enable or disable the progress bar, which can be then positioned on different positions on the survey. The browser title will obviously be reflected here, so you can design that or probably edit the title over here as well. Certain elements of the survey can be turned on and off, like the back button or the exit button, and then also the message for the validation. Now, once you're done picking your theme, right? So for example, let's say if you select your theme for your survey, you can just simply click on this preview option over here and preview how the survey would look like. So this is the default theme, and you can actually see how the survey would look like on a particular desktop view, or I can check it on how it would look like on a tablet or even a mobile device. So that's how you can pick and choose the design elements of the survey. Now, QuestionPro supports various media options that you can pick and choose or use on the survey. So for example, we spoke about how to add a video or an image onto the survey questions. So you can upload anything that you want in terms of images, GIFs, or videos that you want to use on your survey, and then add them to your media library. And from your media library, you can use them on any question onto your survey. You just need to pick and choose the image that you want to use from here, click on Get HTML, and then use that onto your survey as a code. Now, moving on to the next option is languages. QuestionPro also supports multilingual surveys. If you want to use a particular language onto your survey, simply click on Add a Language, and then you can pick and choose from any of the other language options. So for example, let's say I want to use French. I can click on this option and click on Save, and then you get an option to add the French language. You can click on Auto Translate here, which will automatically translate the survey into the French language for you. If I preview this option, I'll then be able to select the survey that we just designed in French version. All right, so let's go back. Now we have an option over here, which is called as finish options. So this is where you can edit the experience of the respondent on when he completes the survey. You can enter your thank you message over here, or probably have them redirected to a particular website as well. So for example, let's say they complete the survey and then I want them to go to a particular website, say QuestionPro.com. I can save that here and click on Save. So once the respondent completes the survey, they will be redirected to a particular website. So we've got a couple of options over here that you can pick and choose from in terms of finish options. You can also add rewards onto your survey. For example, let's say if you want to incentivize respondents for completing a survey, you can pick and choose from any of these reward options. So for example, you decide a criteria based on a particular quiz score, or let's say all respondents completed, and then you select a particular reward. Let's say I want to give out an Amazon gift card to the people who complete the survey. I can use a gift card value over here and then have that purchased from the QuestionPro website. Let's say I pick a $10 gift card and I click on preview. It'll give us a test mode of how the gift card would look like. So you can pick and choose the finish options that are kind of desirable for your survey. If I go to settings over here, I have got further options that I can pick and choose from. In survey settings, I can change the survey status from active to inactive over here. I can also set up a response quota for the particular survey. I can also enable a close date and put in an inactive message over here. Let's say if I want only one respondent to take the survey through the link and not have multiple responses captured from the same respondent, then I can enable this option over here. Allow the survey to be taken only once, which prevents ballot box stuffing. If you want them to be taken multiple times, just enable this option. If you're doing a lengthy survey, enable save and continue. So people can just go back to the same link and start from where they left off from. Let's say if you want to make your survey anonymous, enable respondent anonymity assurance. But before you enable this, just go through this help file, which will give you further details about this process. In survey security, you can also enable survey authentication through any of these methods. So you can pick and choose from any of these options to authenticate your survey. You can use like a username and password. You can also use it through single sign-on. All right, so that's about survey authentication and security. Let's now go back to how do we make surveys smarter? So we have seen what we've covered so far is how do we basically design surveys from scratch? What are the different question types that we have? So we'll first of all, then, we've also covered survey themes and design. Now we'll dive into this option over here that is logic and survey flows. And how do we make surveys smarter by using logic? So I'm going to pick up a survey over here, which is a really simple survey, a couple of questions that have already been designed. And let's explore how do we add logic. So the first question over here on this survey says, do you like ice cream? It's a simple yes or no question type. If it's a yes, then I want to probably show this question over here that is, which flavor do you like? And if it's a no, then probably I want to branch them to the third question that is, do you like cake? And skip this question. So I can add logic over here, which will kind of make that happen. All I need to do is hover to this option over here where it says logic. And in this option, I have like various logical operators or options that I can pick and choose from. I'll select skip logic over here. And if the answer option is yes, is selected, then I want to probably branch it to the second question, that is, which flavor do you like? If it's no, then I want to branch it to the third question, that is, do you like cake? Once you're done verifying this option, click on Save a Logic. And the logic gets operated successfully. You can also see the hyperlinks over here on where it's going to be branched. Now, let's say I have this question over here that's, do you like cake? If the answer option is yes, I want to branch it to the fourth question, that is, do you like, which flavor do you like? And if it's no, I probably want to branch it to the thank you page, that is, the end of the survey. So I've set up a similar logic by just simply going to logic over here, selecting skip logic, and then selecting the branching as per the setup. Now on this question, or on this survey, I have like two questions, like, do you like ice cream? And then, do you like cake? If the answer options is both yes for both these questions, I want to probably ask the fifth question over here, that is, would you like to place your order for a cake and ice cream combo pack? But now I want to set up a logic which is dependent on two or more questions. So I can do that by going to logic over here and using compound logic. We select this dropdown and we select compound logic, and then we need to create a criteria. The criteria over here can be given a name. So I'm going to place a name over here which says cake and ice cream combo. And then I can use a criteria. So if question is, do you like ice cream, is selected as yes. And if question, do you like cake, is yes as well, then if this criteria is met, I want to probably jump to this question. If not, I can go back to the thank you page of the survey. So this is how you set up complex or compound logic. And I saved this option and that logic saved. Now, let's say if you want to preview the survey and see how it actually works. Click on this option over here where it says preview, and then you can test out the survey. Click on yes over here, and then navigates me to the next view of questions based on the flow that I've set up. So if I say no over here, it will directly take me to the thank you options or the redirect page. So similarly, you need to figure out, how you want to structure your questions onto the survey. So whenever you're setting up logic, the most important thing that you need to do first of all is design the entire survey questions. And that's when you go to the next set of, you pick the question that you want to add logic to and set up the branching or this compound logic. So it'll flow automatically or, to the next, required set of questions based on the criteria that you set up. All right, so we've covered skip and compound logic here. Now let's go into some of the other logical operators. Now let's say if we want to use piping text. Now, piping text is an option where you can branch in information from one question to the next question and use it as a reference based on the selection. So for example, I have this question over here where it says, which restaurant did you last order your pizza? And then you've got like certain options over here that you see. And then my next question is, how would you rate your pizza from? And then I'm using this variable. The variable is $ curly bracket piping text curly bracket closed. Now this variable information is available on our help files. So you can just search QuestionPro piping text and you'll get this variable that you can use on your survey. How do I set this up? Is I design the question and then I go to logic. I select skip logic over here and I have an option over here where it says piping text. Whenever you're doing skip logic, you need to branch to the next question over here by default for all the questions. And then the piping text will be stored in a custom variable or in this piping text variable where you can type in the text that needs to be populated onto the next set of questions. So I've set up the piping text over here and I click on save. And then, let's say if you want to use probably preview the survey, I'll click on preview. And let's say I select Domino's here. And then you can see that it's asking me this with the question that I selected on previous questions. So let's say I want to say excellent. And then over here as well, I'm using the same variable to show the response from my previous question. All right, and I click on thank you or complete the survey. And that's how you design piping text logic on your survey. All right, so let's move on to the next set of questions or probably the logic that you can use on the survey. I'll just pick up and choose a couple of options over here. Let's say I'm going to pick and choose this survey here. So I've got like a series of questions that I can see over here. And let's say I want to branch, certain set of questions based on logic. I can go to logic over here and I can pick and choose any logical operation. So you've got compound branching, show hide logic. This is basically to show or hide a particular question based on a criteria that you define. You can also enable coda control for certain answer options. You can also have dynamic comment boxes to populate based on logic that you set up. You also got an option to scoring and extraction over here. So you can pick and choose from any of these logical operators. To learn more about all these logical operations, you can go to questionpro.com/help and just search for logic over there. You'll get a series of help files which will guide you through any of these operators that you want to use on your surveys. All right, so we've covered logic and survey flows right now. Now let's move on to how do we set up randomization and blocks. So for example, let's say if you want to use or probably randomize a certain set of questions onto the survey, You can do that over here. Let me just open up quick survey. All right, so I've got like a series of questions which are organized in blocks over here. So you can see this is block 1, 2, and 3, and 4. And each of these blocks have a certain amount of questions. Now let's say in block number 2, I want to probably randomize all these questions in a particular order or any random order. I can simply click on these 3 dots over here in the block option over here. So I go over here on blocks and click on question randomization. And what this does is this will help you randomize a series of questions on your block. You can just pick and choose that the way that you want to probably randomize them. So for example, I select these 3 questions and randomly display items from these 3 questions. And let's say I don't want to display this question, I can just put that in over here. And if I click on save, the randomization will be set up. So that's how you randomize a series of questions onto the survey. Now you might as well also want to randomize the blocks itself. So like, let's say I've got like 4 blocks over here and I want to randomly display, let's say 2 out of these 4 blocks. I can go to an option over here, which is called as tools. And I have an option over here where I can select block randomizer. So the block randomizer allows me to randomize a series of block of questions. So I can just go ahead and that randomize, let's say I want to add a randomizer here. And let's say I want to randomize block number 2. Let's say 2 and 3 should be randomly presented. So what this will do is in a random group of respondents, certain respondents will be able to see block number 3 and certain respondents will be able to see block number 2. But block number 1 and 4 will be compulsory for each and every respondent. So that's how you set up a block randomizer and you can simply click on save. All right, so we've covered most of the aspects around randomization and logic. Now let's dive into the last element of this training session, which is survey sharing and collaboration. Now, let's say if you're working on a survey project and you want to collaborate internally with anyone within your university or even externally as well. You can definitely go ahead and collaborate internally by sharing any particular survey and giving them a particular level of access to your surveys. All you need to do is make sure that whenever you're collaborating with anyone in the university, make sure that you design your surveys and organize them in particular folders. So now, for example, let's say I want to collaborate with a user and I want to share this particular folder with them. So I select this folder, there are 2 surveys in it. So both of these surveys will be shared with that particular user. If I click on this option over here, where it says share folder, and I can share folder with users over here. So let's say I select test user. And then I can give like level of access that I can pick and choose from. So I've got like edit, copy, and report. So these are 3 levels of access that I can pick and choose from. So the edit access gives access to the respondent to go ahead and have complete, or overall complete permissions onto the survey. They can edit your own survey. They can look into reports. They can even go ahead and modify this, the entire survey. They can send it on your behalf as well. If you look into an option where you say copy, so that's where they'll be able to create a copy of your survey and then go ahead and customize that their own templates. But they won't be able to look into your reports, neither look into your survey, details in terms of your responses. If you give them an option where you give them access to report only, where in that case, they will be only able to see the report section or the report dashboard for your particular survey. They won't have a, edit or report, copy access to the survey questions though. So you can pick and choose, which level of access that you want to give. All you need to do is make sure that you need to just type in the email address over here for the user and then give particular level of access and click on Save. So that's how you can share and collaborate with anyone within the university in QuestionPro. Let's say if you want to collaborate with someone external to QuestionPro. So in that case, you need to reach out to edu@questionpro.com and request, access to share surveys with someone external to QuestionPro. All they need to have is an account with QuestionPro. They can have like a free account or their own university license that they have. So as long as they have an account with QuestionPro, we can definitely go ahead and share surveys and data with them. And just reach out to edu@questionpro.com with the details of the user that you want to share with, and we'll help you set that up. All right, so that's coming to the end of today's session. If you have any other questions, please redirect them to us at edu@questionpro.com, or you can just redirect to questionpro.com/help and reach out for any help files that you would need assistance to on the product. You can also open a survey ticket, a support ticket over here by simply clicking on support, or speak to one of our chapter representatives over here immediately. We've got help files for all these options that you can pick and choose from, which will have detailed information around each and every aspect of QuestionPro as well. Okay, so thank you so much for joining today's session. I hope this was insightful. Have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.